Now it's part 2 of the Wilhemina Ridge, whatever you want to call it, trail video. Now solid into the rainforest zone being up to 1,800 or 1,900 feet, though the main reason why we're getting to the rainforest zone is because we're getting close to the ridge line of the Ko'ola Mountains. That of course entails higher elevation, but the fact that we're so close to where all the moisture-laden wind from the Pacific is getting uplifted, forcing it to condense before it then warms up and gets relatively less humid as it goes down to Honolulu that way. The fact that we're so close to the ridgeline basically means we're going to get exposed to a lot of rainfall no matter what elevation we're at. So we could be down the valley there where it's probably not even 1,000 feet up and we'll still be getting a ton of rain. And of course we have a lot of the nice native rainforest species you can find here. Firstly, this guy, you see all around it, is Metrosideros polymorpha, commonly known as Ohia lehua. It is the most important rainforest tree in the Hawaiian Islands and pretty much anywhere where rainforest can be found naturally, although in some of the very coastal areas it's been outcompeted by non-native plants, but it's still a fairly strong competitor in the wake of all these invasives you can find, which frankly don't have a ton of up here, thankfully. There's a fairly well intact habitat, but we might see some more as we get higher up. It's a member of the family Metrosideros, which definitely has a tropical plant family, especially some major radiations in like Australia and South America. This plant most likely is a sort of Gondwanan one because it likely evolved in either New Zealand or New Caledonia, where most of the species are. You can also find some in New Guinea, as well as one in southern South America, one in South Africa, and a few in the Pacific Islands, including Hawaii. Now, they easily distribute themselves across large stretches of ocean because they have very fine seeds that can easily be carried on the wind. So that's just basically how they got here. And then in Hawaii, they radiate into 5 different species, most of which are fairly range restricted, but Metrosideros polymorpha can be found all over the place and all the main islands, exception of Niihau and Ko'ola because they're just not high enough to have rainforest. Of course, we also have some other good indigenous species like Dicranopteris linearis, commonly known as, I think, Uluhe. It's a very important fern in the islands because it grows very rapidly, forms these dense thickets which decay into a rich mulch that nourishes all the plants here. Of course, you got Freycinetia arborea, remember the pandanus family, Palhinhaea. Again, this one's also indigenous to the southern Pacific Islands, but it's a very welcome addition here as well. I just had to cut the video there, but we also have this plant, which is based upon its opposite leaves, and it seems to have interpetiolar stipules, likely a member of Rubiaceae, so I guess it could be probably not Coprosma, but maybe a Syzygium, or sorry, not Syzygium, what I'm thinking, a Psychotria, or I can't remember the other big genus of Rubiaceae in Hawaii is, or Hediotis. I just don't know for sure. I might just be imagining it, but it does seem. Now look here. I'll be very careful because these break easily, but it does seem to have the interpetiolar stipules like right there. So that's a family. I'm guessing. I didn't study the plants here well enough to really know for sure. So let's just carry on, I guess. Oh, look at that. It's a native Hawaiian club moss, most likely not an endemic one, but it is definitely native, and it feels very. Despite being technically an herbaceous plant, it feels very woody and lignified, so it can stand up. One of the primitive vascular plants, so it's even more primitive than ferns, but not like as primitive as a moss is, I guess. You of course have another classic rainforest tree here, which I did talk about in the previous video as well, Acacia Koa, the great Hawaiian koa tree, which that's the second most important rainforest tree in the Hawaiian Islands. Really, it typically grows in areas that are less rainy than where Metrosideros polymorpha thrives. So you'll find it in basically habitat that gets from about 60 to 140 inches of rain a year, which that might sound like a ton of rain, but there's quite a few places in the Hawaiian Islands that get more than 140 inches. I mean, you often find it growing with the Ohia lehua as well, but yeah, it's definitely typically likes a more drier aspect of the rainforest here. I should clear something up. What was it called? Freycinetia arborea I found that could have possibly been a species of Pleiomele, which I think is now placed in Dracenia. But there's a few Hawaiian endemic species there and they look quite a lot alike, but they grow more tree-like. You can definitely tell them apart by the fruit they produce. The Freycinetia fruit looking quite a lot like the or Freycinetia, I'm not sure how you pronounce that exactly, but you really shouldn't be correcting people for how you pronounce scientific names. You're right, a Freycinetia has a fruit that looks kind of a lot like a pandanus if you look closely at it. A bit elongated and more oval in shape, but definitely something similar. Dracenia is more like an agave kind of thing going on, like an inflorescence like that. Maybe very different, but it's more of a compound infrotescence. I don't know. You guys take my word for it. I see this grass or grass-looking thing very commonly as I go hiking here. I just don't know what it is, unfortunately. I believe it's native. Looks like it might be like a type of iris. Look at the base of the leaves. We're in a fan shape. I gotta figure that one out because I see it all the time and I've never known what it was for over 10 years of hiking in the islands. Well, 10 years of hiking on vacations here. All right, let's carry on. It's another interesting facet of hiking in Hawaiian rainforest, especially on ridge lines, is just how deeply eroded the trail is. It's a little hard to see, but it's now a total notch about knee height. I have to try and walk through. It's very difficult. This is super, I always gotta worry. Each step I make could be one where I slip really bad. A lot of roots everywhere I keep tripping on. But it's all fine. It's all worth it for the views and the plants I'll find. Now, I don't know if I had a guess, because the opposite leaves without interpetiolar stipules. This might be a member of the genus Melicopi, formerly Palhinhaea, before it was merged back into Melicopi. It's actually one of the most speciose genus of native plants in the Hawaiian Islands, and all of them are endemic. We're in the family Rutaceae, the orange family. I'm having trouble. I just have to guess here. Sometimes you just gotta guess with botany. Either way, even though it's been merged back into Melicopi, the Hawaiian section definitely is rather distinct and certainly represents a distinctive subgenus of Melicopi, which is very cool. And there's like over 50 species of it in the islands. So yeah, I'm really not gonna be able to tell which it is, if that even is the genus it's a part of. But before I actually head up that way, I'll talk about the view we got here, which is pretty cool. You can see a big flat area. I think it's Ka'u crater. Actually, I know it's Ka'u crater. It's got some really cool endemic species and a sort of wetland habitat in there. I think right above that, out there is a Konahua Nui, which is the highest point in Ko'olaus, which is about 3,300 feet, I believe. I can't remember exactly. And way out in the distance, gotta change the ISO for this. That distant ridge is the Waianae Mountains, which has its highest peak at Mount Ka'ala. It's just above 4,000 feet up, highest point on Oahu, where I hope I can go in a few days from now. It's a very difficult hike to do by themselves, so I don't know if it'll be possible, but I'd love to give it a try. You can also see, I just forgot to mention this, a lot of, I'll show in a second. There's a bunch of landslide scars you can see there. It's the slow erosion of this, ever-present erosion of the Hawaiian Islands happens. A lot of it happens through landslides and the like. Okay, there's a rope up there we need to use, so I'm going to stop filming for a second. We've got our first Hawaiian tree fern species. This is a Cibotium something or other. I honestly can't remember which species it is because I didn't study them at all, so I don't even know for sure. You're going to be hearing this a lot. I'll figure it out later. But it's probably either Cibotium menziessii or Cibotium glaucum. Look at the base of the fronds. You can see they're quite hairy. That's an important feature for identifying them. I think most of the Pacific Islands, the tree ferns you'll find are a species of Cyathea, which is interesting because this is very different, of course. Damn, the phone was on? Okay. Either way, that's good to see it because it's, again, one of the most important native species you'll find up here as well. Oh crap, we got more Clidema hirta. Oh, can you rip it out even? It's even worth doing that. Oh, I forgot they're really hard to tear. Oh well, that's gonna invade the entire ridgeline eventually. And there's nothing we can do about it. I gotta keep going. Out there we got an excellent view of Honolulu from up here. We're not into the top yet. Okay, you can really see some of the landslide scars I was talking about from this view. I just realized this. Look at all that bare spots. This place where earth slid away. I mean, I'm sure you guys know what a landslide is, but it happens quite frequently, and they get quickly colonized by the Dicranopteris linearis ferns. But so this happens constantly. That's slowly gonna wear these islands down to nothing. Now, I want to stop here because I found a couple of species I'm pretty sure are native. You know, I can't tell what they are at all. That looks native to me, and that thing looks native to me as well. Well, a tree right behind it is definitely the Cibotium catalinianum, coming with strawberry guava. It's a shame to see it up here. So hopefully one day all the trees will be infected with the bugs, and they've been introduced, and they'll no longer be a major threat here. Oh, I'm running out of battery. Thankfully I brought another one. Alright, and we're back. I just gotta head up to there, and I can hike along the ridgeline a bit and then head back down. Shouldn't take too long, but it probably will, because I keep stopping to film stuff that I don't even know the names of, but that's just how it is with me. One day I should be good at botany. It's kind of cool looking. Again, couldn't tell you what it is, but love it all the same. Alright, now I gotta head through this mud. Clouds are moving a lot quicker than it seems like from the video, I promise you that. Blown for a pass in the mountains, a little low point in the ridge line. There's definitely like, you guys already know this, but in the Hawaiian Islands, almost all the precipitation comes from orographic lift. Like if they were just perfectly flat, they'd probably only get about 30 inches of rain. But the warm, moisture-laden winds on the Pacific get blasted against the mountains, maybe engine of a trade winds, and it forces them up, and as they rise, they necessarily get cooler through adiabatic processes. Eventually they reach the dew point of sort of a parcel of air, and it forces it to condense and then rain. Then as it falls back down the other side of the mountains, like down to there, now having less moisture in it, it warms up, lowering the relative humidity and causing Honolulu to only get about like 20 inches or less of rain a year on average. I mean, Manoa gets a lot of rain, but like the actual Waikiki area, pretty darn dry. So I should consider about just a couple miles away, like less than 10, get over 100 of rain easily every year. Oh boy, kind of these things to hike through. I'm talking about, you got just a few feet away, you got a much better view of the clouds flying through the gap in the mountains. There was a lot of landslides there, wow. I take it back, it's definitely something that happens pretty commonly in the islands here, especially in the wet forests. These islands do not last very long. They erode relatively quickly compared to other types of rock. These tropical Hawaiian rainforests, at least here, really aren't so much rainforests as they are fern fields, I gotta say. Not a lot of trees, and they certainly don't make a solid canopy in these mountains. I mean, okay, well you can't see it, but if you head north in the allows it gets much more forested than this, I believe. It sort of flattens out, gets less steep and ridgy. But here, I mean, maybe there was a bunch of trees at one point, but it just seems like it's all fern field now, with some trees sticking out. More of that cool stuff. I wish I knew what this grass was. It looked like it might be, looks a little bit like this thing called a joinvillea, but I'm pretty sure it's not, which is, I believe, the closest relative to grass. And so Joinvilleaceae is a family of only one genus that has, there's a couple of species, and one is, where several are found only in the Hawaiian Islands, which I think is quite neat. But they do look like grass, but I think their inflorescence is what's different, and that looked very grass-like to me. So I guess that's not what it is, sadly. That's incredible. I gotta carry on. Well, I think I'm close to the top unless it flattens out there. And there's more, or you know, there's more stuff to hike behind it. I always saw that bird, but I'm presuming it's not something that is endemic here. If you see any Hawaiian honey creepers, I'd be very lucky. Not sure I was able to get on film because they're very skittish and tiny, and they're so cool. I think some of the wahoo ones are even resistant to avian malarias, so they're getting more common again and able to compete with the non-native birds and like live in lowland areas, which is very awesome. It's wonderful to see that happening, though. I think the rest are still quite prone to it. Thankfully, we started that sterile mosquito release to try and cull them. It's be starting soon on Maui if it hasn't started already. So, please. Oh, we can see the other side of the island already, or the other side of the ko'olaus, just right there. That's great. You know, I'm really lucky I haven't been rained on yet. I was really worried I was going to happen because it was definitely raining earlier in the day. I went to Wawae'iole Botanic Garden. Oh, okay, I gotta put this away for a second. Okay, things are flattening out a bit so I can film us going over to the very top now. There you go. What a view. Yeah, this one will be a pretty good day to go hiking. So down that way is Waimanalo. Sorry, I think my audio's peaking. You got a kailua down there between, it's that sort of gap in suburbs. So there's around there. There's kailua, it's mostly behind a mountain. And way out there is Kaneohe. 3 major communities on the southeast windward side of the island. Lose my hat if I'm not careful. Yeah, this is I gotta speak pretty loud, sorry. I think it might be peaking my audio a bit. So I'm sorry about that, but man, this is a great place to be. Go hike along the ridgeline a bit. Okay, I'm gonna try and figure out what this plant is, because actually, you know, I think it might just be Metrosideros polymorpha again. You can believe it. That looks like the old cups where the rest of the floral parts were. It's got opposite leaves like the plant does, and it looks very different. You gotta remember, it's called polymorpha because it has such a high variety in forms it grows in. It's just so distinctive, and they sort of grade into each other, so it's almost like a species complex. And some botanists have previously separated it into several different species, but that's kind of frowned upon now, I guess. This is really the perfect habitat for it, right at this, I don't know if you quite call it cloud forest, but it's definitely like in a ridgeline forest that catches a lot of fog and high winds up here. Of course, we got the same tree fern again. So look, that's another definitely Metrosideros polymorpha, unless it's some other variety like, nah, it's gotta be polymorpha. Freycinetia arborea. I was really hoping to find a lot more interesting, cool species, but I guess we're just not in the cards today. You know, I could keep going out that way, but I just don't think I'm gonna find anything else interesting. But I will finish with this thing, which again I think is a Palhinhaea or Melicope. It's because of the, or likely some other member of Rubiaceae. I couldn't tell you, but I'm pretty sure it's native. I just wish I could tell exactly what it is. I need to find out what that grass is though. It's a Psychotria palmifolia. I checked iNat just really quick. It is not native, so that's fucking wonderful. But I think I'm gonna stop the video now, so thanks for watching and see you next time. Right before I go, I just noticed this tiny little flower here. Like urn-shaped flowers like Acacia. I'll look on that, maybe it could be something native. Probably not, but I'll find out. Of course, now that I'm trying to head back down, I'm seeing all the interesting, unique species. This one, I don't know, but it's got these really cool white flowers. Look very distinctive, so I might be able to tell what it is. have the opposite leaves and branches. Not really, they're kind of just alternate, but it looks really cool. Oh, mosquito doesn't suck. Now that sort of fern's a little interesting because it looks like a tree fern, but they're not quite, they're only like a bipinnately compound, it seems, rather than tripinnately compound. So maybe it's like maybe it's a sadleria, but it seems a little big for a sadleria too. I really wonder what that is. Man, so you guys just love me talking about plants. I don't actually know what they are. Isn't that fun? I mean, I guess I'm really showing you some of the diversity of plants you can find here, but it's kind of pointless. Though I do believe I figured out that this is like most likely a sedge called like a Machaerina. Not a Machaerina, although you can call it that if you'd like. That tickles your fancy. But it is, of course, indigenous. I don't know if it's endemic though, unfortunately. I mean, it doesn't really matter if it's endemic or not. So I mean, in terms of being unfortunate, but it would be kind of cool if it was an endemic plant. I'm gonna have to look up more into that. That one, I admit, I just use Seacon. But yeah, okay, right now it's 3:11. Let's see if I can get back to my car by 5. I'm highly doubt it. I'm not even sure I'd want to then, because that's most likely when traffic's gonna be its worst. Rugosa, but it does look a bit like it, and you do find that one in the ko'olaus as well, as far as I'm aware. Like only in the ko'olaus. I really hope that slip was caught on camera. That was pretty cool.